women were getting tired. They couldn't own land. They couldn't initiate a divorce. There were so many things denied of women, but they wanted the vote.
With Soror Mary Church Sorrell at the lead, the members of Delta Sigma Theta came together as an organization and marched in support of white women in their effort to get the vote, even though they would not have that same right for years to come.
Some of the major suffragettes didn't want them in that march.
We were there because we wanted to make sure that we stood for the rights of others. The suffragette movement meant a beginning for Delta Sigma Theta. From that point on, we've been very active in social action and in civil rights in this country and around the world.
When Martin Luther King spoke, I was in that march, but I was scared. I was frightened. I would not have been in that march if it had not been for Dr. Dorothy Irene Height, our 10th national president. They did not allow her to speak, but I look at her as really the giant in the civil rights movement.
Our voice has always been strong.
What's wrong with my running for president of this country? It is time that other peoples in America besides white males run for the highest office in this land.
And we see the progress we've made for all women. The names Mary McLeod Bethune, Patricia Roberts Harris, Ethel Payne, Wilma Rudolph, Daisy Bates, Fannie Lou Hamer. They sacrificed, they gave themselves, they were ignored but spoke up anyway, all to make sure that we could own our vote and change society.
Good evening and welcome to another season of Social Action Sundays. Social Action Sundays is presented under the auspices of the Greenwood Itabena alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. I think there was an extra ED in that presented. However, Social Action Sundays is a presentation of the Greenwood Itabena alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta sorority incorporated. I'm Carissa McFarland-Brown, the host, and I have with me this evening a distinguished panel of political powerhouses. That's how I choose to introduce them to you, and I'll let them tell you about their respective districts and what they do. Sometimes we are afraid, we're frightened by the word politics, but understand that politics is that process whereby resources are allocated or dispersed or distributed, where decisions are made. And these ladies are at the seat of our state government. Their deliberations, what they offer, what they're contributing to the state legislature is critical for us. And it's important that we know and understand, because social action is who we are. We want to be very intentional in bringing to you information and individuals who can not only encourage and inspire you, but empower you with information. And so tonight, my guest, one is very familiar, Representative Tamika James Jones. In Delta land, she is social action here in the state of Mississippi. She's our social action coordinator. But beyond that, she is a state representative for District 51. Joining us this evening are also her colleagues in the legislature, Representative Zakiya Summers, District 68, and Representative Grace Butler Washington, District 69. So I want to say to you all, good evening. I will let you introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit more about yourselves with this question. In addition to the counties that you serve, what led you to state government? What led you to state government? Um, Representative James Jones, you want to take that one first?
Sure. However, I was going to yield to my colleagues because I'm actually pretty close to the area. So I'll yield first to Representative Takia Summers. She's a little bit further down south than I
Down,
am.
okay. Representative Summers, welcome to the Delta.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that, Dr. Brown. And so good to see my colleagues and be here with you all this evening. I would say the most important thing that you can know about me is that I am a child of God. And I put God at the center of everything that I do. God has called me to a life of service. And so I see myself and I operate as a servant leader. I am a wife. I just celebrated my 10th wedding anniversary, and I'm still celebrating today. We just got back from Biloxi. And I'm the mother of three sons. I live in West Jackson. I've been in the state legislature for 6 years. And prior to becoming a state representative, I served as a county election commissioner for Hinds County District 3. I have been involved in policy advocacy work for a number of years. Previously to becoming an election commissioner, I worked for the ACLU of Mississippi, as well as One Voice, Jackson Medical Mall Foundation, and those jobs really helped to strengthen my foundation about the thing that you just talked about, Dr. Brown, and that is that politics is everywhere. Even politics is even in the church. And I know the church doesn't like to talk about politics, but if you aren't talking about politics, politics is talking about you.
Mm.
Our lives and our bodies are political. Everything that happens in society in our daily life, in this form of government that we call a democracy, it is politically based. Um, so that's who I am. How I got to the state capitol. I have two mentors. They are Peggy Calhoun and Credell Calhoun. Peggy Calhoun was the first African American woman who served in the Hinds County Board of Supervisors. Her husband, Credell Calhoun, has been in political office for decades. And I literally grew up down the street from them. When I came back to Jackson after living away after college, I immediately got involved in my neighborhood association and still serve as president now of my neighborhood association. Well, anyway, they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And that was that, I would make a great politician because of the service that I am committed to. My predecessor, who is Credell Calhoun, decided to run for his wife's seat when Mrs. Calhoun retired, and he asked me if I would run for his seat. And initially, I told him no because I didn't think I was qualified. And I don't think that that's a unique experience, particularly for Black women. I think that Black women, because we are nurturers, we have family life, we have work life, we oftentimes don't think that we are. What other folks see in us, which is very unique, hardworking individuals that put other people before us most of the time, and that makes us servant leaders. And so he asked me to run. I said no. I prayed about it. God showed me that that's what he wanted me to do, and we ran against three folks in the primary. We won the primary. Then we had to run against a Republican. We beat the Republican, came in 2019. In 2023, I was reelected with no opposition. And so I think that that speaks to the work that we've been able to do on behalf of District 68.
Okay. And the counties that you serve, Representative Summers.
I represent Hinds and Rankin, so I have a portion of West Jackson. In fact, Representative Butler Washington and my district are right next door to each other, so we share West Jackson. And then I cross from the Capitol Street area of West Jackson, going into Jackson State, Battlefield Park area to Rankin County, and I have a portion of Pearl, Richland, and Flowood.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Representative Butler Washington.
Well, just like my other two colleagues, it everything starts, faith based, believing in God and being that Christian woman and making sure that, you know, you're grounded and you're walking in the path that you're supposed to be walking in according to what his will is for you. And I was afforded an opportunity to be able to kind of grow up in politics. My aunt was the late Senator Alice Varnado Harden. That's my mom's older sister. And so she and my mom are a year apart, and we all call them in the family freaking frack. So that meant that that close bond that they had once I was born, it was just like having two mothers. So growing up, being able to see that when she got elected, I was going to the ninth grade. So having that opportunity to see her and people like my predecessor, Mrs. Alice Clark, was just something that was meaningful, and it just meant a lot. It gave me the experiences to be able to be where I am today. But I didn't start out wanting to be in politics. I actually wanted to be an attorney. So when I went to college, I majored in political science and worked on my master's in public administration. And I still had the idea of being an attorney. And I wanted to be an attorney to fight for people, because that's what I saw, you know, our attorneys here in Jackson and in the state of Mississippi, like Mr. Isaac Byrd and, you know, Constance Slaughter and who else? Ed Blackman, even Dennis Sweet, and just looking at them fight like that, and our women such as your Sarah, Jaribu, seeing them fight, that's something that I wanted to do. Then when I had the opportunity to be able to work in politics with the campaign, I kind of got a niche for it. And wanting to be an attorney kind of got pushed to the side, thinking about, you know, the money that would be made as well as helping people. So once I saw how you're effective in helping people in this way as well, it kind of geared me a different way. So I went into working for advocacy, which was still a way, working for the people, fighting for the people, working with Sisters of Mercy, which here in the state of Mississippi was the Mississippi Health Advocacy Program under Roy Mitchell's direction. And he allowed me to just, you know, learn and soar. He didn't halt that learning growth of what it meant to advocate, what it meant to fight and work with that. And once my time was up there, I was able to devote the rest of my time in public health, working with the American Cancer Society, doing the same thing, advocating in our state Department of Health. So when the opportunity presented itself, my predecessor, Representative Alice Clark, when she decided that she was no longer going to run, she reached out to me. And I didn't know what to say at first, truthfully, because it was just like something Representative Summers just said. You never know who's watching you when and you just rolling through life, going to your neighborhood associations, participating in the organizations that you're a member. You're just doing what you know you've been doing, but it's somebody watching. And that was what she told me when we talked. She said, I've been watching what you've been doing. And I think you're doing well. And I want to know if this is something that you're interested in. I'm going to retire. And she asked me to think about it, look at her area, and see if it was something that I truly thought that I could do and that I wanted to do. And just having that conversation with her, because we are both Alkanites. And so we both have had that relationship for many, many years. When I first graduated from Alcorn, she and Mr. Charles Tillman, they were the first two that encouraged me to join the local alumni chapter of you know, beginning that you need to be a part so you can make a decision. And after a prayer and some getting other things in order, I said, I can do this. And when I entered in the race, I said, if this is for me, Lord, you're going to place me where I need to be. And he did that. And so I won the election. It was 4 other candidates, and we had a runoff, and I won. And so now I serve in District 69, where it's here in Hinds County, and I have a portion of West Jackson and South Jackson. Representative Summers and I, we have one precinct that's a shared split precinct for us, but our districts overlap maybe like one street. I'm on one street, she's on the next. So we both share West Jackson, and I have portions of South Jackson where I go all the way down South Jackson until we get right before you're getting to our Byram area, another colleague picks up that area. And I like what I do. I like working and fighting for our people and all of those who the voice that has the voiceless. So I'm here and I'm thankful and I'm willing to serve and work.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, we're back in the Delta.
We are. We are. Again, thank you so much. First and foremost, I cannot thank my colleagues enough for agreeing to be with us this evening. We truly, truly appreciate you. I will say this, I really believe that, it's really a matter of one call, that's all. We're in this thing together, we're in this fight together. And so that's all we have to do is just, we have to have each other's backs, especially in this day and time. If we, as in the words of I hear Derek Johnson say it all the time, we all we got. So so we have to lean and depend on each other. But yeah, thank you so much again to you, Dr. Brown, my beautiful sorority, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that my colleague, Representative Summers, is a member of
Is Zeta Phi Beta? Is she Zeta?
She is a
I'm
member
trying to
of
remember.
Zeta
I
Phi
remember.
Beta.
I saw her in
When I say
all of her
the
blue
other,
swimwear.
the
I was
blue,
trying to
the other
remember.
blue.
Yeah, other,
And of course, my colleague, Representative Butler Washington, is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So we're sisters linked in together, just all of different colors. But again, thank you so much again, Dr. Brown. But this is a very pivotal moment for us that we are linked in, joined in together. A little bit about myself. Of course, I'm from the Mississippi Delta. I've been here all of my life. Right here in the little bitty town of Belzoni, Mississippi. We consider ourselves to be the heart of the Mississippi Delta. That's our claim to fame, and that's our story. We're sticking to it. We know that right now, being that we are together, we know that there are issues that are facing us all the time. And sometimes we say this is something new. I think it's just a new moment, but these issues have been around all the time. What started me into my world of my political world was, oh my gosh, I essentially I grew up in it. My dad became the first of three to be elected as the city council for our little small town back in 1983. There were three African Americans that were elected to the Board of Aldermen here in Belzona, and he was one. But even before then, my grandfather, and I like to share this story because it's so it's probably one that we can hear about oftentimes, while we're sitting around here in our old family conversations. My granddad owned a nightclub, and he was, of course, well connected in the community. Everybody wanted to go to Big Willie's place. My granddad had a kitchen, and so he had the hamburgers. Some folks say that he had the best hamburgers on this side of the Mason-Dixon line, and I might agree with that just the same. But the thing about my grandfather, he was so connected to the community, but he was also very in tune with what was going on in our communities. Um, Literally, he was right there at the railroad track, and so that was a time when many of us were on the west side of the railroad track, and with his very small cafe, he would be open almost every night every night. I think that even Christmas, he would be open. And from what I understood, the only time that my grandfather, the only day, the most part, that he would not be open with that nightclub would be election day. It was important for him to not be open on election day because that was the day that all of his patrons were essentially required to go and vote.
Mhm.
He wanted to make sure that he was available to take folks to the polls, to make sure that his patrons knew that that, hey, if you did not go to vote and essentially show that you had participated in the elections process, he almost didn't want you to come back, to his place. It was that serious, and I can appreciate that. So he had that instilled in my dad, and then my dad, of course, in his campaigning, it was then a part of me. But of course, as you all know, for 20 years, I served as the circuit clerk for Humphreys County. But fast forward, I just knew that it was time after the tornado ravaged through my area. I knew it was time that this area really had the representation that it needed and deserved. Uh, People were in a desperate situation. I mean, literally in a desperate situation. There, the town of Silver City was almost completely wiped off the map.
Mhm.
And when I say that, there were no homes, you know, um, there was no place for people to go. And so, as my constituents were crying out for assistance, I knew that someone had to be there for them. There had to be an intercessor. And so, with, eh, I just knew then, and I prayed about it because, honestly, there is nothing that you can do without the power of prayer. Nothing. So whether it's politics, teachers, whatever, doctors, lawyers, we knew we had to pray this thing and figure out if this was what we wanted to do. And after that that timing, my husband and I had an opportunity to share with the deputy tax assessor and collector, who we call our courthouse prayer warrior. And he said, I think it's time for you to move forward. I think it's time for you to move forward. And so we took a chance. We decided that we would take a chance, but we felt like we could just, we felt at that moment that we could turn the world on a dime. And we're going to do it. It may be a slow wheel turning, but
Let the
it is
wheel turn.
it's a spinning wheel. It's a spinning wheel. But I didn't have a long time to think. Honestly, I really didn't. Unlike my colleagues, I didn't have a long time to think and to make a final determination as to whether or not I would actually run for the office in a legislative position, because I really felt like I was comfortable. And I think that's dangerous. I think that was dangerous on my behalf, and I'm almost ashamed to say that. But I almost felt that I was kind of comfortable there in the circuit clerk's office. I will tell you, I did not have opposition, but like I said, after we prayed about it for a very long time, uh, we just decided, okay, let's dive in, let's go to work. And I wanted to make sure that I could give as much as I could to my community. And so even after taking that dive, I knew we had to swim. We couldn't just float, we had to swim. And so here we are. Here we are. And of course, um, there had been um, redistricting in this area. So therefore, I not only had the representation for Humphreys County and Sharkey County, uh, and of course, a part of the original district was a portion of Yazoo, but the district had expanded to a portion of Holmes County, which included Chula and Kruger, and also a portion of LaFleur County, which included most of Highway 7, headed up to Itabena, Mississippi. And so we just got out there and we decided, let's go to work. Let's go to work and let's do the people's work and be about the people's business. Um, and so that's where we are. That's where we are. And of course, we had so many objectives uh, uh, post that tragic tornado, in addition to all the other issues that we're facing, our community. So yes,
And
that's my story.
I wanted, and I asked that question because as individuals listen, we have to understand the why. Because when we understand the why, then my hope is that it will also open other individuals' eyes to the fact that they do have what it takes, whether they see it in themselves or not. Sometimes it's somebody else who can identify that in you. I love the fact I'm backing all the way up to Representative Summers when she talked about her faith and being led and the importance, because sometimes in our churches we forget that at one point in our history the church was the center. It was the epicenter. It was ground zero for much of what we've gained, much of what we've been able to accomplish. It was ground zero, and for some reason there appears to be a falling away or a fear of being engaged and involved. So I definitely appreciate that fact, and being a servant leader. Sometimes we lead to lead for the sake of leading, and it's not about it's about the title rather than the towel. I think it ought to be the other way. It's about the towel. It's about the humility and the fact that we understand we're here to minister to and to serve individuals, and we can do that in a number of ways. Then Representative Butler Washington, when you talked about advocacy and building on that leadership, but the fact that there's much that is to be gained. I'm going to jump into what's going on in the state legislature, what we should be focused on. But again, we sometimes forget that we can be advocates at any level and anywhere. And we often forget that because we think that, well, if it's not happening, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just one. But wherever you are, your local level, in your communities, I listen to you all talk about your role and your engagement and involvement in communities. So that's, of course, exemplary. But I'm circling. So I want you to know when you hear this again, Representative Summers, no, I said it. I'm borrowing it from you. If you aren't talking about politics, politics is talking about you. I don't think we understand how profound that is. We're getting there. We're feeling it now. But I don't think we appreciate that. And again, Representative, I said Sora, so interchangeably. Sora Tamika James Jones, the idea that we deserve representation. And I think sometimes in our communities, we don't think that. We've been lulled into the sense that, oh, okay, it's not going to happen. We can't expect that. It's for somebody else. We do deserve the resources, the opportunities. All of those things are important and essential. So I want to thank you because in your stories, prayerfully, someone listening understands that or finds themselves and is motivated. Whether it's motivated to work as toward a seat in the state legislature or just motivated to do something different in their communities. So now, as you think about the session, and I know I'm reading about enough committee meetings that are going on, and I know that your work is not limited to January through March, okay? But as you're preparing for the next legislative session, for the 2026 session, what would you identify as the priorities? And interestingly, we've talked across the years about healthcare access, about education and full funding, about crime and protection of our citizens, about PERS and all that good stuff. What are the priorities for this next session? What should we be focused on? And I threw that out there as past discussions because I already know that there are also future discussions. So what do you see ahead for us in terms of this next legislative session? Any one of you can just jump right on in.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So, the issues really remain the same over the years. And, you know, I'm talking about the big bucket issues like issues of education, health care, criminal justice reform, public safety, voting rights. The issues remain the same. It depends on which lens you're looking through to focus in on that particular issue. Of course, we serve in a supermajority Republican legislature. And so the priorities that come out of those big buckets aren't necessarily the same priorities that we align with. Nevertheless, as legislators, and because in the space that we work in, it truly is a team sport. You have to play offense and defense, and as a result of us being in the super minority, we oftentimes have to be on defense more than we would like to be on offense. The Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus just recently had our retreat, and we talked about those priorities. And what we're strategizing around is how do we come up with strategies that we can play defense and offense on. And I'll say, for example, on education, the Speaker of the House, who is not our boss, but is the person who runs the House and sets the tone and the priorities for the legislature from the House, and the same on the Senate, which is the Lieutenant Governor. The Speaker of the House has established a select committee called Education Freedom. And education freedom for Republicans means how can we get enough support to push school choice through the state of Mississippi? Now, a lot of people will hear school choice or hear education freedom and say, you know, certainly we should be able to make the best decisions for our children's education. And I absolutely agree with that. But what I don't align with is using public funds to fund private education. Private education, which is not going to be beneficial, at least for my district and the children and the families that are in my district. Jackson Public Schools, which is the primary school district that's within my district, we recently had to close 13 schools. And we had to close 13 schools because of this movement around charter schools. Charter schools takes funding away from the public schools, whether the children remain in the charter school or not. We have done an outstanding job, I think, due to the efforts of legislators, particularly Democratic legislators that have been at the forefront of the fight around fully funding education, where now Mississippi is 16th in the country. If we were to put in school choice or education freedom, whatever term they want to use, we're rolling back the positive